Once upon a time, in a small village, there lived a couple who were married for 4 years. Their names were Deji and Okwe. They were very rich and successful, but they lacked one thing. They didn't have any child. Their childlessness bothered them so much as they sought out several means of getting children, yet nothing happened. Okwe visited several native doctors who gave her concoctions of all types to drink, but after drinking, nothing still happened. The friends of Deji, on the other hand, advised him to get another wife, since Okwe couldn't bear a child for him, but he refused, saying that he had just been married for 4 years, so it was too quick to start looking for another wife, as he loved his wife so much. The couple lived together in love and harmony, and in the 6th year of their marriage, Okwe got pregnant and bore twin children. The birth of the twins brought about a huge celebration in the village because twins were seen as a blessing and favor. Okwe and her husband, Deji, named their twin daughters Taye and Kehinde. The twin sisters, though identical in appearance, had two completely different characters. The twins were raised with the same values and principles, yet they walked different paths. Taye was calm and reserved right from birth. She was deeply religious, went to church often, and volunteered to take part in several church activities. Meanwhile, Kehinde was the total opposite. She was too forward and ahead of herself. She was also rebellious and never wanted to engage in any church program. She always sought freedom and was too eager to attend parties and late-night events. The attitude of Kehinde troubled her parents, but they just dismissed the feeling, saying that she was still a child and would outgrow it. Deji, being a wealthy man, made sure that his daughters never lacked anything. The girls were pampered so much by their parents and were one of the few in the village who could afford to go to the university as a result of their parents' wealth. So Deji and his wife sent their twin daughters to university after their secondary school and advised them to pay attention to their studies and avoid doing anything that would put them in trouble. They advised Taye, who was the cool-headed one, to always make sure that Kehinde acted right in school and focused on her studies. The twin sisters traveled to school, a place very far away from home and away from the watch of their parents. Their school was located in the bustling city. Both girls immediately resumed classes. They were studious and took their school activities very serious. They attended classes and had good grades. However, over time, some friends would come to pay a visit to Taye and Kehinde in their hostel and would always invite them out even during school hours. Taye always prioritized her education over every other thing, so she never did anything to jeopardize her studies. She turned down any invitation from friends that didn't suit her time. Kehinde, on the other hand, was so easy to sway, and with just little convincing from friends, she began partying at the expense of her studies. She usually went out all night to different parties and returned back to the hostel the next morning, feeling tired and unable to attend lectures. She would sleep in the hostel all through the day till her roommates were back from class, only to dress up again at night for another party. This act alone affected her, and her grades dropped drastically. Kehinde, who was once a top student in her class, became one of the least. Taye was bothered about the attitude of her sister and wished her parents were there to talk some sense into her. But their parents were miles away from their school and didn't know what was going on. The absence of her parents and other elders made Kehinde act even much more wild. She was also influenced into taking hard drugs. Taye, who was very religious, spoke to Kehinde, advising her to desist from taking the route which would lead her to eternal condemnation and follow Christ and take her studies more seriously, as she used to. But Kehinde never took her sister's advice. Taye, unsure of what to do, went to seek the counsel of her pastor and his wife concerning her sister. They advised her to keep making conscious efforts to bring her sister back to her senses. So she did just as she was advised, and she kept speaking to her sister, hoping to change her mind. Kehinde, who was now fed up with her sister's incessant advice and invitation to church, agreed to attend church just to get her sister to stop disturbing her. The next Sunday, as promised, Kehinde went to church to just make Taye happy. But on entering the church, the entire congregation was in total shock, including the pastor. Kehinde came to church with an extremely short and indecent dress. She became the center of attention. Taye was so disappointed at the sight of her sister. She was so angry at her. The security in the church walked Kehinde out of the church to avoid distracting the congregation. On getting back to the hostel, Taye confronted her sister, telling her how disappointed and embarrassed she was. Taye, in anger, made a decision never to bother convincing her sister to change for the better again. She decided to leave her alone to act as she liked since she was irredeemable. Kehinde didn't feel an iota of shame and wasn't sorry for her actions. Taye just made sure to focus on herself and never bothered about her sister anymore. Kehinde soon after dropped out of school and fully joined her friends who never cared about the future. She kept spending her entire money on drugs and meaningless things. A few months later, Taye and her classmates wrote their final exams and graduated from school without Kehinde because she already dropped out of school earlier. Few months after school, Taye got a job at a top firm in town, so she didn't have to go back to the village. She worked really hard and rented her own apartment, still away from her sister. Kehinde over the months amounted to nothing. She went from one place to another, partying. Sometimes, months would pass and Taye would set eyes on her sister because she grew worse as the days went by. Kehinde only came to Taye's house whenever her money finished to beg Taye. But one day, Taye got fed up, and on one occasion, Taye suggested to get a job for Kehinde so she could earn her own money instead of always going around begging. But Kehinde refused. So Taye made up her mind never to give her twin sister money again because she realized that Kehinde used the money on hard drugs. Kehinde was so angry and left her sister alone. One day, as usual, Kehinde went to the nightclub and had a misunderstanding with someone else in the club. Instead of trying to avoid the situation, a fight broke out and both women fought fiercely. Kehinde was so furious that she broke a bottle on the girl's head and the girl bled to death. It was at that moment she knew what she had done. She was so scared. A moment later, the police came and she was arrested. She kept pleading and begging, but nothing could be done. In the police station, they also found out that she was in possession of some hard drugs, which she also consumed. All this put together in her trial made the judge sentence her to a lifetime in jail. Her parents and sister came to pay her visits in prison few times. But Kehinde spent so much years in jail, and every day she deeply regretted her actions, wishing that she had taken the advice of her sister and not involved herself in such a wayward lifestyle. Her parents also were disappointed in her and regretted sending her to town for schooling, but they took solace in the fact that Taye, who was also sent to the same school, came out successful. The lessons to be learned from this story are never to follow the crowd. We should learn to also avoid putting ourselves in situations which could lead us to trouble.
I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Please don't forget to give it a big thumbs up, comment, subscribe and turn on your post notification to get notified when next I post a new video. Bye!